Welcome to True Crime Case Files. In today's episode, we delve into a chilling tale of betrayal and murder set in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in April of 2015. This is the story of Johnny Ray Baxter, a successful real estate agent whose life was brutally cut short by someone he trusted most. Johnny Ray Baxter was a 45-year-old man living in Fayetteville, Arkansas. He was a well-known real estate agent who worked for a local company called Ozark Realty. Johnny Ray had a big smile and a friendly personality, which made him popular with his clients and colleagues. He had a degree in business administration from the University of Arkansas and had been working in real estate for over 20 years. Johnny Ray was married to Darlene Baxter. Johnny Ray and Darlene seemed like a happy couple. Johnny Ray was Darlene's second husband. He had a stepdaughter named Lily Adams, who was 18 and in her first year at the University of Arkansas studying psychology. Johnny Ray got along well with Lily, or so it seemed to the outside world. Outside of work, Johnny Ray loved sailing. He owned a small sailboat named Dreamcatcher, which he often took out on Beaver Lake. He enjoyed spending weekends on the water, feeling the wind and the waves. His friends at the local marina remembered him as someone who was always willing to lend a hand and share a laugh. In the days before his death, Johnny Ray was busy with a big property deal. He was working hard to close a sale on a large commercial property in downtown Fayetteville. This deal was very important to him in his career. He was also planning a surprise anniversary trip for Darlene. He had booked a cabin in the Ozark Mountains and bought tickets to see a concert in Little Rock. He even picked up a special necklace from a local jewelry store, Sissy's Log Cabin, as a gift for Darlene. Despite his busy schedule, Johnny Ray made time to visit the local coffee shop, Arsagas, every morning. He enjoyed reading the newspaper and chatting with the baristas. His favorite drink was a caramel latte. On April 10, 2015, 2 days before his death, Johnny Ray was seen at Arsagas smiling and talking about his plans for the weekend. He seemed happy and excited about the future. Johnny Ray's life seemed perfect on the outside, but there were hidden troubles. His wife, Darlene, had been acting stressed and worried lately. She had noticed changes in their daughter, Lily, and was suspicious of Johnny Ray's late-night work meetings. Friends and neighbors had started to notice the tension in the Baxter household. On April 12, 2015, at about 7:30 a.m., Johnny Ray Baxter's body was discovered. The person who found him was his neighbor, Michael Everly. Michael was a 52-year-old retired school teacher who lived next door to the Baxters. Darlene had called Michael, worried because she hadn't heard from Johnny Ray since the previous night. She was out of town visiting her sister and asked Michael to check on her husband. Michael knocked on the door of the Baxter house but got no answer. He noticed that Johnny Ray's car was in the driveway, so he decided to try the door. To his surprise, it was unlocked. As he stepped inside, he immediately felt something was wrong. The house was unusually quiet. Michael called out for Johnny Ray but got no response. He walked through the living room and into the kitchen, where he saw signs of a struggle, chairs overturned and broken glass on the floor. He followed the trail of chaos to the master bedroom. When he opened the door, he was met with a gruesome sight. Johnny Ray was lying on the floor in a pool of blood. He had been bludgeoned to death with a hammer, which lay nearby, covered in blood. The room was a mess, with blood splattered on the walls and furniture. It was clear that Johnny Ray had fought for his life. Michael was horrified and immediately backed out of the room, his hands shaking. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed 911, his voice trembling as he described what he had found. The 911 operator tried to keep him calm, asking him to stay on the line until the police arrived. The news of Johnny Ray's death quickly spread through the neighborhood. Maple Street was soon filled with police cars, and curious neighbors stood outside, whispering to each other about the shocking event. Local news stations like KSM and KNDA sent reporters to cover the story, and by noon, it was the top news in Fayetteville. Michael, who had been friends with Johnny Ray for years, was in a state of shock. He had never expected to find his neighbor and friend dead in such a brutal manner. He later told reporters that Johnny Ray was a good man who didn't deserve such a terrible fate. The discovery of Johnny Ray Baxter's body marked the beginning of a complex and tragic investigation, one that would uncover hidden secrets and lead to shocking revelations about those closest to him. The police arrived at the Baxter home quickly after Michael Everly's 911 call on April 12, 2015. The first officers on the scene immediately secured the area, making sure no one entered or left the house. Soon after, Detectives Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey and James Carter arrived to lead the investigation. Detective Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey was known for her sharp mind and attention to detail. At 38 years old, she had solved many difficult cases. Her partner, Detective James Carter, was 42 and had a reputation for his methodical approach. Together, they made a strong team. As the detectives walked through the house, they saw signs of a struggle. The living room had overturned chairs and broken glass. The kitchen had more chaos, with dishes scattered on the floor. When they reached the master bedroom, they were met with a grisly scene. Johnny Ray Baxter lay on the floor, surrounded by a pool of blood. He had been bludgeoned to death with a hammer, which lay nearby, covered in blood. The walls and furniture were splattered with blood, showing the violence of the attack. Detective Mitchell-Kinsey noted the hammer as the murder weapon and ordered it to be bagged as evidence. The crime scene was chaotic and disturbing. The detectives and forensic team took many photos and collected samples. They used gloves to carefully pick up items, making sure not to contaminate any evidence. Blood samples, fingerprints, and a hammer were all collected and sent to the lab for analysis. Outside, neighbors watched as the police worked. The local news stations, KFSM and KNUA, were there too, reporting on the shocking murder. Reporters spoke to neighbors who described Johnny Ray as a friendly and well-liked man. The media coverage added pressure to solve the case quickly. Detectives Mitchell-Kinsey and Carter interviewed Michael Everly, who was still shaken from discovering the body. He described finding the door unlocked and seeing the mess inside the house. His detailed account helped the detectives piece together the events leading up to the murder. By the end of the day, the police had gathered a lot of evidence but still had many questions. Who could have committed such a brutal act? Why would someone want to kill Johnny Ray? The detectives knew they had a difficult case ahead of them, but they were determined to find the answers. The first suspect in Johnny Ray Baxter's murder was his wife, Darlene Baxter. Darlene was 34 years old and worked as an accountant for a local firm called Razorback Accounting. She was intelligent, meticulous, and hardworking. Darlene had a tough past. She became a mother at 16 and worked as a stripper to support herself and her daughter Lily. Despite these challenges, she built a successful career and was known for her strong-willed nature. Darlene had recently noticed changes in her daughter Lily's behavior and grew suspicious of Johnny Ray's late-night work meetings. Friends and neighbors described Darlene as increasingly stressed and on edge in the weeks before the murder. Some said they heard arguments between her and Johnny Ray. Detectives Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey and James Carter brought Darlene in for questioning on April 13, 2015. Darlene appeared calm but was clearly distressed. She maintained that she had been out of town visiting her sister Nancy in Little Rock. She provided photos and text messages to support her alibi, but the detectives still had doubts. During the interrogation, Darlene spoke about her relationship with Johnny Ray. She admitted they had been arguing more lately, mainly about his work and the amount of time he spent away from home. She denied any involvement in his death, insisting she loved her husband despite their problems. The detectives asked Darlene about the night of the murder. She explained that she had left for Little Rock on the afternoon of April 11 and stayed with Nancy until the morning of April 12. Nancy confirmed this story when the detectives called her. However, it couldn't ignore the tension in Darlene's voice when she spoke about Johnny Ray and the changes she noticed in Lily. The police also searched Darlene's car and belongings for any evidence. They found nothing directly linking her to the murder, but they did find a diary in which Darlene had written about her frustrations and suspicions. These entries painted a picture of a woman under immense stress and emotional turmoil. Despite her alibi, Darlene remained a prime suspect. The detectives continued to look into her past, interviewing friends, family, and coworkers. They hoped to find a motive or any clue that could tie her to the crime. The pressure on Darlene grew as the investigation progressed, but she remained steadfast in her innocence. The investigation into Darlene Baxter was thorough, yet many questions remained unanswered. The detectives knew they had to keep digging to uncover the truth behind Johnny Ray's brutal murder. The second suspect in Johnny Ray Baxter's murder was his stepdaughter, Lily Adams. Lily was 18 years old and a freshman at the University of Arkansas, where she was studying psychology. She was known for her outgoing and sociable personality. Her friends described her as bright and ambitious, always eager to learn new things. Lily had a complicated relationship with her stepfather, Johnny Ray. It was revealed during the investigation that their relationship had evolved into a secret affair. This affair made Lily feel guilty and conflicted, especially as she saw the strain it put on her mother, Darling. Detectives Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey and James Carter brought Lily in for questioning on April 14, 2015. Lily appeared nervous but cooperative. She admitted to the affair with Johnny Ray, explaining that it had started about 6 months earlier. She said she had been feeling lonely and confused, and Johnny Ray had been there for her. She insisted she never wanted to hurt anyone. During the interrogation, Lily explained how she had confided in a close friend about the affair and her feelings of guilt. This friend, whose name was not disclosed, confirmed Lily's story to the detectives. Lily described the last time she saw Johnny Ray, which was the night before his death. She said they had argued about the affair and the impact it was having on their family. The detectives asked Lily about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Lily said she had been at a friend's house, studying for a midterm exam. Her friend confirmed this alibi, saying that Lily had stayed there until the early morning hours of April 12. Despite the alibi, the detectives were suspicious of the emotional turmoil that Lily was going through. The police also searched Lily's dorm room and her belongings for any evidence. They found nothing directly linking her to the murder, but did find several letters and notes between her and Johnny Ray. These notes showed the depth of their relationship and the emotional struggles they both faced. Despite her alibi and the lack of direct evidence, Lily remained a prime suspect due to the affair and the emotional tension it created. The detectives continued to interview her friends and classmates, hoping to find any inconsistencies or new leads. The pressure on Lily grew as the investigation continued, but she maintained her innocence and expressed deep regret for the affair. The investigation into Lily Adams was thorough, but the detectives still had many questions. They knew they had to keep digging to find the truth behind Johnny Ray Baxter's brutal murder. On April 17, 2015, 5 days after Johnny Ray Baxter's murder, the police received a significant break in the case. It was a cool, cloudy morning when a jogger discovered a suspicious item in the park near Beaver Lake. He noticed a plastic bag partially buried under some leaves near a bench. Curious, he opened it and found a blood-stained shirt and a pair of gloves. He immediately called the police, and within minutes, patrol officers Karen Lewis and Tom Martinez arrived at the scene. They secured the area and called in detectives Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey and James Carter. The detectives quickly assessed the situation and bagged the items for forensic analysis. The detectives were cautious but hopeful that this new evidence would provide a breakthrough in the case. They brought the items back to the Fayetteville Police Department's forensic lab. Forensic analysts found that the blood on the shirt matched Johnny Ray's DNA. Additionally, the gloves had fingerprints that were not Johnny Ray's. This new evidence shifted the focus of the investigation. The detectives revisited their list of suspects and re-examined their alibis. They also reviewed the surveillance footage from the park and nearby areas. This extensive review led them to a surprising discovery. A figure matching Lily Adams' description was seen entering the park late on the night of the murder. Detectives Mitchell-Kinsey and Carter brought Lily in for a second round of questioning. This time, Lily was visibly more nervous. She claimed she had gone to the park to clear her head and had no idea about the bloody items. The detectives pressed her for more details, but Lily stuck to her story, albeit shakily. The forensic team continued their analysis and found another critical piece of evidence: hair fibers on the gloves that matched Darlene Baxter's DNA. This discovery complicated the case further and indicated the possible involvement of both mother and daughter. On April 18, 2015, the detectives called Darlene back for questioning. She seemed calm but concerned when presented with the new evidence. Darlene admitted to knowing about the gloves but insisted she had nothing to do with the murder. She said she had worn the gloves while gardening and couldn't explain how they ended up near Beaver Lake. The police were now more determined than ever to solve the case. They knew they were close to uncovering the truth but needed to carefully piece together the final puzzle. The discovery of the new evidence was a pivotal moment in the investigation, providing crucial leads and intensifying the search for Johnny Ray Baxter's murderer. Hey, true crime case solvers interested in more real-life murder mysteries, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Stay safe, true crime case solvers. The third suspect in the murder of Johnny Ray Baxter was his ex-wife, Diddy Baxter. Diddy, aged 46, was known for her hot-tempered and aggressive nature. She had a contentious relationship with Johnny Ray and had never approved of his marriage to Darling. Diddy lived in Fayetteville and worked as a manager at a local grocery store, Hart's Food Stores. Detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter decided to bring Diddy in for questioning on April 19, 2015. Diddy arrived at the police station appearing defiant and uncooperative. She had a reputation for speaking her mind and not holding back her opinions. During the interrogation, Diddy admitted that she and Johnny Ray had a rocky relationship. She described their marriage as tumultuous and full of arguments. Diddy expressed her disdain for Darling, calling her a homewrecker and blaming her for the end of her marriage. However, Diddy vehemently denied any involvement in Johnny Ray's murder. The detectives pressed Diddy about her whereabouts on the night of April 11, 2015. Diddy claimed she was at home, watching TV and drinking wine. She mentioned watching an episode of Dancing with the Stars and going to bed early. There were no witnesses to confirm her alibi, which made the detectives suspicious. The police searched Diddy's home for any evidence that could link her to the crime. They found a few items of interest, including a set of gardening gloves similar to the ones found at the park. However, forensic analysis showed no blood or DNA on these gloves. Despite her alibi and the lack of direct evidence, the detectives continued to probe Diddy's potential motive. They discovered that Diddy had recently learned about Johnny Ray's affair with Lily, which added another layer of tension and potential anger. Friends and coworkers told the detectives that Diddy had been particularly upset and vocal about the affair, calling Johnny Ray a disgrace and expressing her anger to anyone who would listen. The detectives also interviewed Diddy's neighbors, who reported hearing loud arguments coming from her house in the days leading up to the murder. One neighbor, Mrs. Everly, said she heard Diddy yelling about betrayal and lies. Although Diddy remained the suspect, the detectives found it challenging to gather enough evidence to charge her. She was aggressive during the interrogation, but maintained her innocence. The detectives knew they needed more concrete evidence to link her to the crime. The investigation into Diddy Baxter added another layer of complexity to the case, as the detectives worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading to Johnny Ray's murder. On April 21, 2015, the breakthrough in Johnny Ray Baxter's murder case finally came. After days of investigating, detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter found a crucial piece of evidence. A surveillance camera from a nearby gas station had captured footage of Darlene Baxter driving toward Beaver Lake late on the night of the murder. This was a significant lead that contradicted Darlene's alibi. Detectives Mitchell Kinsey and Carter reviewed the footage carefully. It showed Darlene's car, a blue Honda Civic, passing the gas station at around 11:30 p.m. on April 11. This placed her near the crime scene at the crucial time. With this new evidence, the detectives were confident they had found Johnny Ray's killer. On the morning of April 22, 2015, the police arrived at Darlene Baxter's workplace, Razorback Accounting. It was a sunny day, and the local news stations, including KFSM and KNWA, were already covering the latest developments in the case. Darlene was in her office when the police entered. She looked surprised but remained composed as they informed her of her arrest for the murder of her husband. As Darlene was led out in handcuffs, she maintained her innocence, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. The affair between Johnny Ray and Lily had driven Darlene into a fit of rage. She felt deeply betrayed by both her husband and her daughter. The detectives believed that on the night of the murder, Darlene confronted Johnny Ray. The confrontation escalated into violence, and Darlene grabbed a hammer, fatally striking him multiple times. Darlene's arrest shocked the community. Neighbors and friends couldn't believe that the hardworking, intelligent woman they knew was capable of such a violent act. The news spread quickly, with headlines in the Fayetteville Observer and segments on local news stations detailing the arrest. Johnny Ray's family had mixed reactions. Some were relieved that the murderer had been caught, while others were devastated by the betrayal. Lily was particularly heartbroken. She had lost both her stepfather and her mother in a matter of days. The emotional toll on the family was immense. As Darlene was taken to the police station, she continued to deny her involvement. However, the detectives were confident in their findings. The surveillance footage, combined with the forensic evidence and Darlene's conflicting statements, painted a clear picture of her guilt. The community of Fayetteville was left to grapple with the tragic events. Johnny Ray Baxter's murder had uncovered deep family secrets and left a lasting impact on those who knew him. The police had solved the case, but the emotional scars would take much longer to heal. The trial of Darlene Baxter for the murder of her husband, Johnny Ray Baxter, began on July 15, 2015, at the Washington County Courthouse in Fayetteville. The courtroom was packed with reporters from local news stations like KSSM and KNOA, as well as concerned members of the community. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Robert Stevens, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough and relentless in the courtroom. He argued that Darlene's motive for the murder was her discovery of the affair between Johnny Ray and Lily. Stevens painted a picture of a woman pushed to her breaking point by betrayal and emotional turmoil. He presented the surveillance footage of Darlene's car near Beaver Lake, the forensic evidence from the crime scene, and the conflicting statements she had given to the police. On the other side, the defense was led by attorney Michelle Williams, a 39-year-old known for her calm demeanor and sharp legal mind. She argued that Darlene was innocent and that the evidence was circumstantial. Williams suggested that someone else could have committed the murder, perhaps out of jealousy or anger. He questioned the reliability of the surveillance footage and pointed out that no witnesses had seen Darlene commit the crime. Throughout the trial, Johnny Ray's family sat in the front row, watching the proceedings with a mixture of anger and sadness. Lily, in particular, struggled with the emotional weight of the trial. She had lost her stepfather and now faced the possibility of losing her mother to a long prison sentence. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for 3 days before reaching a verdict. On August 3, 2015, the jury found Darlene Baxter guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was tense as the verdict was read. Darlene showed little emotion, while Johnny Ray's family wept and hugged each other. The local news immediately reported the verdict, and the story was covered extensively in the Fayetteville Observer. Judge Lisa Everly sentenced Darlene to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She stated that the evidence clearly showed Darlene's guilt and that the crime was a result of intense personal betrayal and anger. The judge expressed sympathy for Johnny Ray's family and hoped the sentence would bring them some measure of closure. The reaction to the verdict was mixed. Some in the community felt justice had been served, while others believed the sentence was too harsh, considering Darlene's difficult past and the emotional stress she was under. Johnny Ray's family, however, felt a sense of relief that the ordeal was over and that the person responsible for his death was held accountable. The trial and sentencing marked the end of a tragic chapter for the Baxter family and the community of Fayetteville. The murder and its aftermath had left deep emotional scars, but the verdict provided a sense of justice and a step toward healing. After Darlene Baxter's trial and sentencing, life slowly began to return to normal for those involved in Johnny Ray Baxter's tragic murder case. For Darlene, now serving her sentence at the Arkansas Department of Correction, life took on a stark routine. She was allowed limited visits from family and friends, with strict rules governing her daily activities. The media coverage surrounding the trial gradually faded, replaced by new stories and events in Fayetteville like the annual Bikes, Blues, and BBQ motorcycle rally. Lily Adams, now 19, returned to the University of Arkansas to continue her studies in psychology. She struggled with guilt and grief over her role in the affair that ultimately led to her stepfather's death. Lily sought counseling to help her cope with the emotional aftermath and worked hard to rebuild relationships with her family. She distanced herself from media attention, focusing on her studies and volunteer work at local animal shelters. Meanwhile, Detective Sarah Mitchell Kinsey received recognition for her role in solving the high-profile case. She continued her work at the Fayetteville Police Department, investigating other crimes and mentoring younger detectives. Detective James Carter transferred to the Northwest Arkansas Drug Task Force, where he applied his investigative skills to combating drug-related crimes in the region. In the community of Fayetteville, the impact of Johnny Ray's murder lingered. Neighbors and friends remembered him as a friendly and successful real estate agent who loved sailing on Beaver Lake. The local Rotary Club held a memorial service in his honor, and a plaque was installed at the Fayetteville Town Center to commemorate his life and contributions to the community. Johnny Ray's family, especially his first wife Diddy, found solace in each other's company and support. Diddy focused on her career at Hart's Food Stores and became involved in local charity events like the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure in Bentonville. She remained vigilant about keeping her family close and supporting her grandchildren, who missed their stepfather dearly. As time passed, the scars left by Johnny Ray's murder began to heal, though the memory of the tragic events of April 2015 remain a part of Fayetteville's history. The community rallied around the Baxter family, offering support and understanding as they moved forward from the ordeal. This tragic case of love, betrayal, and murder serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. Thank you for joining us on this episode of True Crime Case Files. Stay tuned for more stories that uncover the darkest corners of the human psyche. Until next time, stay safe.